What's up, everybody? And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Genetic Canvas. Um, if you didn't catch last week's episode, definitely go back, catch that replay. We were covering the Enchi mutation with a great panel of guests, and we had some amazing animals you don't want to miss, and some genetic breakdowns that could help a lot of people out. So definitely go back, watch that episode, and comment #ReplayGang. Hit like and subscribe if you're new. Drop a comment in the chats here for everybody. Drop your links in the comments, and I hope you're ready for a HOGNOSE episode, because we are breaking down all the different mutations in the HOGNOSE complex, or species, I should say. The complexes of the HOGNOSE mutations, though. Definitely want to learn about these mutations myself. I don't have much knowledge with the HOGNOSE other than knowing a couple of the mutations, names, and looks. So I'm excited myself. Hope you all are. A little bit of news this week. Selective Creations is going to become more of a background company, and Gem Exotics is now going to be the new face for our company, Selective Creations, and the reptile side of things. So stay tuned for the changes fully making their way over to my Instagram, Facebook, Morph Market, and all other medias, YouTube, everything across the board. And definitely look forward and look out for new updates coming to our companies, because we will be expanding and we're excited about that. This Friday on Hair Down, definitely tune in. My son will be cutting his first clutch of eggs. So it's going to be exciting to see what he hatches out of that. And the pairing was a vanilla disco, spot nose possible Enchi het clown to a vanilla possible red stripe het clown female, which the male vanilla disco is my male, of course, and then his female, that was his first female. So super exciting, first eggs from his first female, and he's going to cut them himself. Just a little slit so we can peek in, make sure that they all survive, because that's the most important thing. We'll wait for them to come out to really see what they are and what they look like. But yeah, that's why we do egg cuttings. It's not just for show. We definitely want to make sure that these animals survive. Definitely want to check out this merch real quick. Shout out to Josh at Mantooth Captive Bred Reptiles, hanging out with me at the VIP event, Daytona and Sear, and always willing to talk snakes, hooking me up with the shirt. He's got amazing animals and projects going on. Definitely check out his social media. And up here on the lid, we got the Herpin Harbins show sponsor. Shout out to all of our show sponsors, and also affiliates of Husbandry Pro. If you are not using Husbandry Pro, use code SELECTIVE60 for 60-day free trial. And if you are shipping any snakes this week, use code SELECTIVE65 for 65% off 2 Redline shipping labels. That's the biggest discount that you can get on Redline packages on any code out there. So definitely utilize it and share it with all your friends. We had over the weekend a visit to a friend's down in Lehigh Acres, where we did some clutch identifications to upload to the Patreon, and we also did a live video on Instagram Saturday with some, reveals of a world first Mandarin, Monarch, Hurricane, and he hit 2 of them in that clutch. So he hit a lot of the Mandarin, Hurricane, Het Monarchs, and those will be for sale. Definitely check out that episode. We showed off a rainbow clutch, potential, first combos in the rainbow project and everything. Definitely check that out. The last bit of news for this week that I'm very excited about. Let me reach down here. We got a puppy. So this is Cannon, and he is our XL bully from Big O Bullies down in Lehigh Acres. If anybody is interested and into the dog scene, definitely check them out because they have the cutest puppies. And he's going to get huge. Champion breeds, UKC, ABKC bred, papered, all that. So just super excited. That's my first dog. I love furry pets, and I know a lot of us do. So just shout out to them, Big Old Bullies, Brandon, everybody down there. And let's get into this episode. Today we have a special co-host joining us. He's recently taken a dive into the hognose mutations himself, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that right now. Let's welcome Bear from Red Onion Reptiles. How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm having a fun time. I'm excited about this episode and excited to learn about you and your little adventure into the hognose.
Well, I laughed and told people when I started this whole deal that I was getting into hognose, so I'd have something to support my ball python habit.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Hell yeah.
and it's like everything else with reptiles; it doesn't happen fast. So I started buying hognose babies almost 3 years ago, and I've been raising them up and trying to learn what I could learn, and a whole bunch of people have helped me along the way, trying to keep me from making stupid mistakes. And I probably still managed to make a few, even with all the help I had. But I've had a pretty decent first season. I think right now I'm sitting on about 130-ish eggs out of six
Wow.
females. I actually have 10 females that I'm pairing, but a couple of them slugged out, and one just didn't do anything. So,
So
but
130 eggs out of six females. And what was the average clutch size?
well, I don't know. I'd have to sit down and do the math, but
Roughly average?
every one of them so far is double clutched, and
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know I got one female that laid 16 the first time, 12 the second time. So that one female made 28 eggs, and the first one that laid 13 in the first clutch and 6 in the second. So
Nice.
I mean,
Good.
you figure, and as I said, I actually paired 10 females, so there were some issues with a male that caused two of them to slug out, and then for whatever reason, I got one female that just didn't do anything,
Hmm.
and then I've got one that's the typical hognose uh, horror story, I guess. She's the best I can figure. She started laying eggs and she laid about half of them and then turned around and ate them and then got egg bound. So it took her about 2 weeks to pass the rest of them. And of course, they were no good when she passed them. So I lost that clutch. So out of 10 females, I lost basically four clutches. And,
Okay.
and so uh, one of the ones that slugged out, the second one that slugged out was when I figured out it was the male,
Okay.
and so I threw another male in with her, and if she double clutches, I'll get some
You might
fertile
be able
eggs
to
the
save.
next go around. But I can't complain about what I've got. Like I said, 130 ish eggs,
Do you
and
expect that?
I no
Are you
no
prepared for it?
well barely.
Yeah.
I tell you what I did, and this is another funny story. That you people that know me know I kind of try to think ahead of stay ahead of what's going on enough to that I don't get a lot of surprises. And the whole time I'm doing this, I'm thinking, well, I've got a ARS Mini 140. They make a 130, and I add a level to it, make it 140 tubs. And I got a Mini 140 sitting in there. There's never had a snake in it. We're all good. I got plenty of room to put these hognose babies.
Nice.
And then, like during the time I'm brewmating, I'm kind of going through this stuff in my head one day, and I realized that friggin' rack had gray tubs in it, which is not what you want for hognose.
Oh,
And
really?
so, that was kind of an oh shit moment. And I thought, well, what am I going to do about this? And I thought, I could order tubs, but then I'm going to have a rack sitting here with 2 sets of tubs. And at some point, I'm probably going to have to order a rack to go with that other set of tubs.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up, I just went ahead and ordered a whole nother rack, and I just took the tubs out of it and put in this one. So I do have another hatchling rack if I end up needing it, and I've got room to set it up, but it's the room that I've got to set it up is kind of being occupied with other junk right now. So, but anyway, overall, I'm happy with things, the way things went. And I'm trying to get through this whole trying to get them eat thing, which is something I'm just not used to with balls and boas.
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe we'll learn some tips and tricks.
usually the not wanting to eat thing with balls comes a little bit later. I usually don't have any trouble getting hatchlings to eat. And with hognose, it seems it's just kind of the opposite. They don't want to
It's
eat.
intimidating because they're so little.
Oh man, I assist fed 3 hognose yesterday, and let me tell you, it's a 2-person job, and trying to get 4 hands in there around a hognose mouth that's like not even as big as a pencil is a challenge in itself. But we got those 3 little hognose assist fed yesterday, and they look better today. They look like they ate something. Whether they'll ever eat on their own, I don't know. But at least we got something in their belly to keep them going.
Heck yeah. Well, I
You know
think
how that
we're going
is.
to get
Even
a
with
lot
ball
of little
pythons,
tips and tricks
assist
and
feeding.
answers to those kind of little qualms that you may have throughout your first year in this episode. And I'm excited for all this education. So let's get into the chat and see who we have joining us tonight. What up, Dwight, the pie man in the house, dropping the whiskey bombs. Building, Tired Out Morks. Any of the Weekend Warriors, we're going to throw you up on the screen. Weekend Warrior in the building. Appreciate you. Proxima, Mike and Melissa in the house. We appreciate you guys. Good evening. We got Post Malone in the house. How's it going tonight? Mike and Melissa. Post Malone. Hell yeah. Squeaky Will. Oh, that's a new one. Hell yeah. We got Jamie K, Herp Collectors Network in the building. If you guys didn't catch it last night, I was on the Herp Collectors Network Chondro Corner episode with Jen Kate last night. Definitely go back and check it out. A little bit of history with me back in the day with the chondros and also what I'm kind of getting into now. Jeff Baldhead Balls, another Herp Collectors Network in the house. Appreciate you, bro. Sammy V in the house, show sponsor. What's up, man? Dropping them whiskey bombs. We appreciate that. Make sure you guys are dropping those whiskey bombs in the chat, hitting that like button, and making that subscribe button red if you haven't already. You have the best person for hognose everything. Heck yeah. Jeff is the man for sure. Pat in the house. Appreciate you, Pat. Heck yeah, I love that puppy. Thank you. Can't wait to see him grow up. At least she didn't eat the male. He should have said the bear. No limit in
Yeah,
the house. What's up? How's it going tonight? More Fords in the building. Make sure you subscribe to their network. Slay in the building. Appreciate you. And if you guys are ready for this episode, stick around for these sponsor videos. Drop some comments. Get to know each other. And we'll be right back.
Banana Bread Royals demonstrates that taking risks leads to incredible rewards. Their work with hypo is outstanding, and the way they combine it with their Wookiee line is truly unparalleled. The interaction with other genes like Blackhead and Stranger produces breathtaking, one-of-a-kind animals. Be sure to follow them on Morph Market and Instagram. Lindworm Exotics specializes in a multitude of reptiles such as ball pythons, doomer boas, coastal rosy boas, and false water cobras, to name a few. They are dedicated to providing the public with well-adjusted animals with superior quality. Follow them on Instagram and Morph Market. Black Box Reptile cages should be your go-to for high-quality reptile enclosures and rack systems. They offer versatile hatchling and adult racks that work with both Vision and Freedom Breeder tubs, as well as a wide range of terrestrial, arboreal, and bioactive cages. Located in Beaufort, Georgia, Black Box Reptile Cages offers local pickup as well as ship and freight. Check them out at blackboxcages.com and use code WhiskeyBomb25 for 5% off. Selective Reptiles works with a wide range of genetic combos, including Hypo VPI Xanthic, DG VPI Xanthic, and Zebra, but where they stand out is their work with Monsoon, Monarch, Sunset, and other high-end morphs. In addition to reptiles, they produce premium feeder rodents, delivering to Florida, Georgia, and North and South Carolina. Make sure to use promo code WhiskeyBomb5 for 5% off any snake. Check them out on Wolf Market or reach out directly. From fur to feathers, Fuzzy Acres has your feeder needs covered. Whether you're looking for frozen rats, bulk rabbits, or harder to find feeders like quail and guinea pigs, they've got the stock serious keepers rely on. Visit fuzzyacres.com for clean, healthy feeders that are frozen and shipped with care. Remember to use code WhiskeyBomb10 to save 10% on any order, and as always, enjoy free shipping on all orders over $300. Grant and Mary of Rec Room Snakes have been breeding ball pythons and Woma pythons for over a decade. They're staples within the ball python realm and most notably known for their work with the paint mutation and putting it to multiple codoms and recessives to truly unlock its potential. Please give them a follow on Morph Market to check out their incredible animals and on Instagram to keep up with their projects.
Shout out to the sponsors. Make sure you guys check them out. Use all the codes that they offer, and shout out the network when you guys inquire Whiskey Bomb on any inquiries. And yeah, let's get into this. I know we saw it in the chats already. We appreciate that comment, Jamie. You are the best person for HOGNOSE everything, because he is a wealth of knowledge. He is a wealth of experience and top of the game in the HOGNOSE world. Let's welcome Jeff from JMG Reptiles.
Hello. How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
How's it going? Thank you for joining us. So I wanted to start off with you giving us a little bit of your history of when you started in the HOGNOSE. What time period was that?
I got my first one as a pet when I was 9 years old, and by 11, I was actually I was technically 11 when I got when the babies hatched. But I bred my first pair right around that time in 10-gallon aquariums, and I was just a big fan of Reptiles magazine because my dad was a subscriber, and he actually kept tortoises and frogs. Although by the time I had my snakes, like at a young age, he got out of the reptiles and amphibians that he was working with. Then he ended up getting back into it a few years after that. So yeah, and then from there on, I just kept my HOGNOSE collection just kept growing. By the age of 15, 16 years old, I was producing 50 to 60 babies a year, like right around 60 babies a year. So,
damn.
That's basically
kind of reminiscent of my story, like breeding ball pythons the first time when I was 11 and hatching them when I was 12. I didn't get to invest like you did for all the years following it.
Right. It took me, I was doing like leopard and African fat-tailed geckos. I was working with those, and then my dad quickly, as I was getting leopard, because the whole time I was going to these reptile shows, my dad was taking me to them. Like, I was a kid at the time, so obviously somebody's taking me all these places and giving me some money, because it wasn't like all money earned. His birthday money, chore money, and then my parents giving me a little bit to pursue my interest. And so early on, it actually took me a very long time to build up my HOGNOSE collection, and the reason is because I was a kid. And so it wasn't until I was about like 18, 19 where I really started. And the thing was, I was Well, even at the age of 15 and 16, like all summer, I'd work doing demolition, drywall finishing, painting to save up money to buy Hognose. So I'd work like, 4, 5, 6 days a week all summer. And then any money I had and any money I did ever make would just go rolled back into the reptiles. And if I lost it all, I would just kept rolling money into it. And I did that for a long time. And then I'd say where things started to really explode was, of course, because I got lucky, right place, right time, and picked out an Arctic because I seen that it was unusual, and I didn't even know what it was at first. I thought it just was a pretty hognose. I got that really at a really young age. And
I was gonna say at that young age, you picked up a lot of a keen eye for things, studying it all, right?
Well, the one thing is, I'd actually say a really big motivator and a really big I just say contributor to that is actually the ball python hobby and market. Seeing people pick out things like cinnamons and like yellow bellies early on. Because my cousin Thomas, who is a couple years older than me, and he actually lived in Florida. I'm in Ohio. He lives in Florida. And he actually worked for Mark and Kim Bell at Reptile Industries. He worked for him for like 8 years. And he used to go through like 10, 20,000 import baby ball pythons. And he actually had some of the first cinnamons. He just didn't breed them quick enough. Yet he tried. I remember he did some not best trades at first when he had his cinnamons. But like when he came out with cinnamons, the only other person that had them was Greg Graziani. And I think like maybe Greg Graziani was like the first person. So I remember he had the pewter. And I was actually next to him when I was 16 years old, actually at the Daytona Expo when he was selling or had the first pewter on display. And so anyway, looking at like watching these guys pick out these like small, like, abnormalities or aberrant patterns and working with them and turning out to be mutations, that was inspiring. And I was mainly, because when I was younger, I wasn't like, I didn't have albino hognose or hypo or pink pastel albino hognose money. So I was picking out like green phase, light colored ones, red phase, anything I thought that was a little unusual.
What was the price of an albino at that time when you were like 15, 16?
When I was 15, 16, they'd already been out for a bit, and I got my first one when I was 15 for like $900, and that was a good deal. People were selling them for around like 12 or 1,500 then. I remember them being like when I was like 10 or 11, I heard like, I remember vaguely, I was obsessed with hognose, but it wasn't like, it wasn't easy to keep an eye on the market until like King Snake Classifieds. And the King Snake Classifieds was a little later from when I was like 10 or 11.
I remember that,
yeah. And so
that was it was a little choppy too, because you had to be so selective when you went in there searching,
Yeah. Then and mainly where I was buying all my hognose too back then was at reptile shows. Like I don't even think I bought my first hognose online until I was like 14 or 15. And by that time I'd probably already bought like 15, maybe more hognose at that point.
How old are you now, Jeff?
38.
38, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. I relate a lot to the time periods, and I'm close in age, so that's just makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, I was lucky to start as early as I did.
Yeah, definitely. Who are some of the early breeders that helped establish the Western hognose mutations from
Richard Evans. Richard Evans, yeah, he was the OG guy, and he's like kicked off the entire hognose market. He had the June 2000 Reptiles magazine article, with all the like morphs, and he was really, he's the originator of hypo, which gave rise to caramel and frost. So without hypo, there would have been no caramel or frost. He also was the originator or first one to breed, because some guy caught it and he traded for it, the albino and a pink pastel albino. And, I'd say this happens with a lot of actually like snakes. Like what's kicked off like corn snakes. Corn snakes actually have the first, albino mutation ever reproduced in a snake species. It was like in 1969, I believe, it might have been 68. And then, I had albino Burmese pythons. Burmese pythons got popular. Then what happened in the early 90s with ball pythons, there was an albino. So a lot of times you see like an albino or a hypo morph coming out early on, and that kind of seems to be the kickstart for that species. Like now, hognose were obviously a really good species to introduce into the pet trade for many reasons, mainly their size and the way they look, how cool the cool looking they are and cute. And then the morphs. Morphs really accelerate everything. I mean, that's kind of the hallmark for any usually species. If it's going to continue to have a lot of people wanting to invest in it and money going into it, is if there's, for one, there's got to be a lot. It's got to be fairly polymorphic, so you need a lot of like either polygenic traits, but even better is when you have mutations. And so when they had all these mutations like pop up, or Richard Evans was like, "Hey, I got this albino," and then he put out word he was looking for more. And actually, I did a podcast with him. It's on the Trap Talk network on the Friday nights that I do sometimes. I did an interview with Richard Evans because he's been out of it for like 20 years, but he was catching hognose like in the 80s and 90s, and he's pretty interesting to talk to. But he was the biggest inspiration and the biggest name to actually get the hognose community rolling. Without him, I don't know where we'd even be at right now. I might, everything would be completely different. It'd be insanely different.
John had a question here. Was that in far northwest Texas? Probably in relation to where the albinos were found or something?
Yeah, the albino. Well, the PPA, there's some I've talked to somebody who keeps trying to tell me, it was actually found in New Mexico.
Oh, where he traded?
Well, the traded, this is Lubbock, Texas. So most of these hognose that were and actually a lot of the locales of the hognose we have today, they're mutt locales. But there's a lot of stuff from Lubbock, Texas. And that's where Richard Evans is. There's a lot of hognose there. So most of these morphs were found within about 100, maybe 200-mile radius of Lubbock, Texas. So yeah, this is northwestern Texas.
What up, Tommy? I didn't miss you. All right, cool. And that kind of leads me into the other, the next segment, which is like natural history question. Where are the westerns most prolifically found as far as like wild mutations? And I mean, are there wild mutations in hognose? And also, let's see, regional differences, is there any kind of locality differences?
Yeah, regional differences. So if you're going to look at them as far as different locales, the northern locales tend to be darker. So they're a little bolder and darker, and sometimes you have like green face types. And if you're seeing these like red face type western hognose, they're generally, I don't think I've ever seen a reddish colored wild type western hognose like north of like Nebraska. Colorado and Nebraska seems to be the cutoff, and then New Mexico, their pattern, a lot of times actually their irises are a little more orangey brown. Not always, but sometimes their irises almost have like a red pigment to them, while the irises, the eye pigment, the iris pigment in a lot of other locales is more brown.
Is eye color anything that anybody's specifically trying to focus on selectively breeding?
No, I mean, there's certain mutations that, change eye color. I mean, I'd say the New Mexico ones, it's not, I mean, sometimes I've noticed these southwestern locales have a little different colored irises. It's not anything like drastic.
Okay.
I mean, it's some of them, it's kind of, in my opinion, drastic. Like, if you show me a hognose from New Mexico, like caught in New Mexico, unless it's like against the Texas border, but if you're more like in the Chihuahuan desert kind of range, and probably 95% of the time I could tell you it came from New Mexico. Like I did that one where, you ever see those guys where they look at like pictures of like grass or somewhere and they have to guess where it is? Yeah. I've done that with people if they show me something I'm a naturalist. I'm usually pretty good, but then there's certain ones where it's like, one from Minnesota pretty much looks like one from Canada. Minnesota and Canada locales are both dark. Sometimes you get some aberrant pattern. Wyoming, you get some they're dark, but you get grayish ones. Sometimes you get greenish ones. And then Colorado, you can get a mix of the grayish, greenish ones. You can get like the light tan ones. And usually the basic, more brown ones, those can be like from anywhere central, but Texas. And then sometimes like, again, you get the red phase ones, Oklahoma, northern Texas, especially once you get into that top panhandle kind of area and it starts getting closer to Oklahoma. The area with the red sandy soil, they're a little more red.
Okay. One that's my favorite, and a lot of times when I talk to breeders about it, they say it's more of a locality, a line bred trait, is the watermelon and the lemon ghost, which are like really classic mutations or line breds.
Yeah,
what are they, lineages?
They're lineage. I'm the originator of Lemon Ghost. And I would say, I don't even know where the first male came from. And believe it or not, he was actually my first hognose I got when I was 9 years old.
Wow, okay.
And it was probably about a year and a half after owning him. And I was getting more into genetics from reading Reptiles magazine and talking to my cousin and, just going to the reptile shows and seeing like these, morphs of like ball pythons and corn snakes. And I was just really fascinated, not only by snakes, but by genetics. And so I noticed he was different looking at a high yellow belly. If I had to guess, though, especially where they're coming from and where I've seen yellowish hognose like him from, that is probably from the Lubbock area. And I selectively line bred that pretty quickly because as soon as I bred him, I got some babies that were fairly yellow and green. I kept them back. So that's one of my longest running selectively line bred traits is Lemon Ghost. And then Lemon Ghost, I started getting some oddball pattern ones out of there in my late teens, and I coined the name Woma. And you could actually see my even though I never really had many.
I really love the Wama pattern. Go ahead.
That's cool. But a lot of these names you could kind of start to see the pattern. Lemon Ghost, Woma. These names were pretty much ripped off from the ball python community because I loved ball python morph so much, and I was very
pastel and hypo Lemon Ghost.
Yeah. Now Arctic, that was different. There's no ball python I could think of that's named Arctic, but and it's maybe new, maybe something now. But anyway. But as far as going back to locales, you have some geographical differences with color phases, and like the ones isolated populations in Illinois, they're kind of like a little sandier and lighter, but they can look like ones in Colorado. So a lot of them are pretty nuanced. They're not real extreme. And then the ones in the one little isolated population left in Missouri, they kind of have a unique look. But overall, they're not like crazy different. But if I started to show you certain ones, like more extreme ones in certain areas, you would be able to tell. But as far as size differences, I would actually say the extreme northern locales might be a little smaller, just because, I've seen like sables, which are like, if you got like some of the original Pure Line sables, those were Cascade County pure Western hognose.
Do you think that accounts to like a longer brumation period in the northern states?
Well, no, because I'm based this off of keeping them in captivity. Like I've never had any sables get like super, super huge. I mean, I'm sure that there's some, but all my super huge ones are like my red albinos, some of my like super Arctic albino crosses, just regular Arctic albinos. Like some of my locale mutt stuff is like, if I kept feeding them, they could get up to like 700-800 grams. Like I don't, but I have some sables.
That's big.
Yeah, exactly. And those real big ones it's not even healthy for them. They generally don't make good breeders.
So other than like the Lemon Ghost and the watermelon, what other lineage or lineage bred hognose are out there? Because I know there's a lot of mutations that are recessive and only one or two dominant mutations. But are there any other lines that are just selectively bred like the Lemon Ghost?
Yeah, you have several types of red phase. You have the RB pastel. Now the one problem is like, and I've seen this in the leopard gecko community. The leopard gecko community actually taught me a lot in watching how people misinterpret or label things, and but anyway, like RB pastel was listed as a dominant. It's not a dominant. It's a polygenic. And then you have things like true hypo and pistachio, and they get this recessive label, but they're actually a polygenic. And I've popped up with true hypo looking animals and ones that were directly true hypo. And again, if you look at true hypo though and pistachio, they look about the same. And if you selectively line breed them together, you get better quality ones. So it's like, and it drastically enhances the characteristics of this, line or this trait. Wouldn't it be like, you can't like, it'd be like line breeding an albino and saying, hey, I'm going to make it more albino-y. The only way you can line breed an albino and change it is with some polygenic interference. So like the wild type colors in the background, those can actually change, or another mutation. But that's a different
getting
story.
Something stronger that bleeds through and manipulates the shades and things like that.
Yeah. So if you have so there's a lot of different lines. There's the pistachio, there's true hypo. There was, I think the Louis Chavez had one like that, is like a true hypo like animal. There you have the mocha, you have the shadow, the green hypo, which is the same as the watermelon stuff. It actually was originally named green hypo, and then the extreme versions were actually called watermelon. And that was another one. It's a polygenic, but it was labeled as not a dominant, an incomplete dominant. And so the single gene mutation was supposed to be the green hypo, and the super form was supposed to be the watermelon. And even at like 15 when I bought them, because I already knew leopard gecko genetics pretty good at that point, I'm like, these are a polygenic. Even back then, I was like, yeah, this is an incomplete dominant. Because you could see that they're like very nuanced, and there wasn't really any strong defining characteristic. And when you bred them, you got this like kind of like, variability to them. There was no real strong consistency there. And then if you outcrossed them, they got diluted because it's a polygenic. And then you have different types of like red phase. And so, there's quite a few poly lines. And polygenics can get a little confusing because there's certain people that incorrectly label them, or they pop up with something that's related to another line and they coin it with their name and put their name on it. And so, yeah, it takes a while to be into it to kind of get a feel. It's like, okay, some people are just referring to like this is their bloodline, but they've only worked with it for a few years. Or there's this, bloodline that somebody's worked with for 10 or 15 years, and do have a unique look. So there's the one thing, and it's like if people come in and they don't selectively line breed something for many years and they just kind of start coining names, people kind of like, even if they don't know much, kind of catch on to it because like, oh, those don't really look too much different or whatever. And if you spend like 8-10 years really defining a line and you have something to really show for it, then you kind of get the notoriety because people see what the results are.
So talking about the breeding of hognose, real quick, I want you to just tell me the best way of sexing hognose snakes.
Tail length and width, to just the tail length, and then the taper of the tail.
No popping, no probing, just visuals.
Yeah, I rarely pop. This one person, I sold them a male, and I don't know how experienced the person was, but I've seen this twice now. One was a veterinarian, an exotic veterinarian, and one was another breeder, and they probed the hognose. They're like, "Hey, this is the wrong sex," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's not." And it's like, I mean, I've made mistakes, but in these cases, it's like, yeah, that's a male. I was like, you go ahead and call it a female if you want. I was like, it's never going to lay eggs. This thing is like the most clear male I've ever seen.
I noticed the males always have a much longer, more tapered, gradually tapered tail, and the females always have much shorter drop-off type cloaca.
Yeah, they can be tough when they first hatch, though. And there's certain lineages
until you get to those ones that don't.
Yeah. Barry has. Yeah, he's seen like there's. I get ones like that too. Even though I've been doing this, like, and I've been looking at hognose like pretty much every day of my life for the majority of my life. From early teens, mid-teens, breeding them on. I've had a lot of experience with sexing them. There are still quite a few I'll come across where I'll be like, I'm gonna raise this one up for a bit before I come to 100% conclusion, because some females and certain locales like the locales can actually have different tail lengths. And, I'm not saying it's like every single animal in that locale, but there's certain ones that have like lineages have different body, like anatomical characteristics. Like these ones I got from from this guy in Montana, the females had insanely long tails as babies. Like they almost looked like a male, but they were really thin and whippy at the end. And I was like, I can't believe these are females. And this was about like 8 years ago. And I raised them up. And then as they grew up, their bodies kind of filled out. And the funny thing is, I have some of these really long tail females. And as they grow, they kind of grow in to their
fill around the tail.
Exactly. As they get bigger, their tail doesn't kind of like keep progressing. It kind of like ends up being like, oh, this definitely looks like a female. It just has like a slightly longer tail.
What's up, y'all? Josh and Alicia here for the Herpin Harbins. We got the hat on. If you guys didn't see it, we got the hat. Shout out to y'all. We appreciate y'all. Hell yeah. Show sponsors in the house. So sorry. We had to shout them out. Hognose gang. So before we get into the real bulk of the episode with the mutation breakdowns and the snakes, I just want you to tell me real quick about the ethics and responsible breeding that goes along with hognose and the cautions that you have to take. Because I've just been told by people that there are a few you should watch and keep track of.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is quarantining properly. The like in ball pythons you have nidovirus. The equivalent to that would be the protozoa parasitic disease Cryptosporidium in hognose snakes. And so that's one I actually have a lot of experience with from breeding leopard and African fat-tail geckos. Wild leopard geckos and wild African fat-tail geckos both have Cryptosporidium in the wild. Now, it kind of seems like it probably, in my hypothesis, this isn't like something that's widely recognized, but I think it's pretty much like population control because there's so many of them in the wild that I couldn't imagine how many more African fat tails and leopards there would be if they didn't have cryptosis in the wild. So the weak ones kind of get overwhelmed by it, and they probably either get taken out by a predator because they're like so messed up, or they just die, unfortunately.
And
So I've
that
actually,
can be picked up by the hognose.
what was that?
Oh, that can be picked up by the hognose. The same.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Same. Like now, that's a different species of cryptosis. Hognose actually can still get the lizard species, but there's several species. So there's serpentensis, the varani, and then I can't pronounce the other one, but it's in lizards. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, yeah, they can get that, and it's not good at all. It's very bad, and they could be anywhere. Like they can get it and be asymptomatic, and it can sometimes not even really interfere with them, but it's still really dangerous because those ones can still spread it, and it can build up in their system. And one that had,
Flare up.
yeah, it could flare up, and they can keep it in remission for a long time. But if they get overwhelmed by it and they start breaking out, and then when they're breaking out, then the parasites starts shedding even more oocysts, the egg spores, essentially the eggs, but they're called spores. And then if it gets contaminated with all the other ones, it really is debilitating, and in most cases it's a death sentence. And the ones that are breaking out really bad. But there's different species of cryptosis. I believe there's subspecies. There's a lot of there's not a ton of research into it because you don't really get that many grants to research reptilian diseases.
Is that a caution to consider when purchasing?
Yes.
And who you're purchasing from mainly?
Yeah.
I mean, how you avoid it?
Yeah, I avoid with the way I avoid it when I buy new hognose from people. Since I have a large collection, nothing ever leaves my quarantine. If I get say Swiss chocolate in from Switzerland, they never make it to my main collection ever. Only the babies will. Because they can't, they can't hatch with it. It's all oral to fecal contact. It's not airborne. So that's one big thing to look out for is buying from a reputable breeder that has a healthy collection.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. And then the only other question about cautions was cautions with inbreeding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. And I've been selectively line breeding my animals, and making sure I'm breeding ones with the best anatomical characteristics. And mainly I'm looking at, head shape, looking for things like bug eyes. So you want one with a wild Nassicus head. So if you go on iNaturalist, .com, and you look at Wild Plains hognose, their heads should be within, parameters like that. Now, and I made up this thing. It's called like PSA, but HSA, hognose structure analysis. And I look at their heads, and I kind of do a point system. So we want to make sure that the scales, aren't abnormal. The rostral scale is nice and broad, and it doesn't have a short face. And then the supraocular scales, the ones called overlapping the eye, have a little bit of an overlap, and the eyes aren't bulging out of the fucking head. You don't want that. So yeah,
really, there's a whole checklist that you have personally for what you look for as far as getting too far out of the norm.
Yes. Yeah, and it can get pretty loose pretty fast. And the thing is, we're still kind of combating it because, if I bought albinos or morphs, back in the, mid 2000s and late 2000s, most people had some really poor head structured animals, and it was a pain in the ass getting stuff. Even when I was buying my first snow hognose, and I'd already had xanthics and albinos, but again, if I had money and I wanted a hognose, I was I'd just buy it. And so I was getting more snow stuff, and I was picking them out from these different breeders at Daytona, and one breeder showed me his, and I was like, oh, thanks for showing me, I'm not interested. And they were so bug-eyed. I was like, because yeah, he could have offered me those things for 25% of what the going price was, and I wouldn't have touched them. And then
that's a good lesson for anybody that's interested in investing in hognose. If Jeff wouldn't invest because it had a slight abnormality, then you should be looking for these same things.
Yeah. And so those ones, weren't so slight. Those ones were pretty bad. So every now and then, I always say, if it's a rating, if I'd give one for my perspective, if it's above a 6, I'll still consider breeding it. You don't want to breed a ton of 6s though. But even if you breed a bunch of 8s, 9s, and 10s, you're still going to get some 7s and 6s because you're working with these, captive, populations where there was some degree of inbreeding. And even though you might get some that have really good structure, they sometimes, like, I've bred some together that have really good head structure, and they produce one that, like, looks like a toad, so you just got to be watching for that. But then when you get the one that looks like a toad, it's like, all right, sell it as a pet only.
Okay, yeah. Is there any wild blood being collected from the wild and brought into the hobby still?
Yeah, a little bit, not a lot. The one
Most
thing
of
is,
it's restricted, right? Restricted from collecting those in their natural habitat in a lot of states.
yeah, a lot of states, Colorado's restrictions, any of the states where there's like, fragmented populations, they're restricted. I think North Dakota is very restricted. Montana's not, but
So
Montana's
a little bit,
hard to
but
find
not
them.
much.
Yeah, so yeah, and then like Texas and like I don't know about New Mexico, maybe like New Mexico or in like Texas. I think if you have a hunting license, you can still collect them. But there are still some wild bloodlines. I have a wild one from South Dakota and some wild ones from Montana.
And how important is it to you to have a wild animal or wild blood in your collection?
That's a good. I like that question. It's like one that I could go either way on. Like we have enough hognose in captivity. Like we have so many hognose in captivity. There's more hognose in captivity than there are in probably several states combined with actual wild, population.
True.
So we have enough, and we have so much diverse, initial, lineages. All these Lubbock locality. There's some like New Mexico mix. We even have Colorado. We have some Wyoming. There's a lot of Montana, and there's like maybe a little other one speckled in there. So I think it's fun. And I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's 100% necessary. If I was going to like, answer the question like, is it necessary? No, I don't think so. Is it good and is it fun? Yeah, definitely. Is there more locales that that aren't in captivity that I think would be some benefit and maybe be really cool as far as looking at it from a breeder's like perspective of,
Polymorphism,
yeah,
all that.
exactly. So yeah, I think it's either way, but I do think the having some wild caught ones is good, but I'm also happy that there's not many people taking them from the wild anymore, and that's not really that necessary at this point.
Awesome. Great answer. I love that answer. So everybody that's been hanging out with us during this live and anybody watching the replay, hang out with us for these words from our show sponsors, and we are going to get into the animals right after.
ShedTesting.com is your premier destination for fast, affordable, and reliable shed genetic testing. In addition to genetic testing, they have some beautiful ball pythons on their website, ShedTesting.com. Make sure to use code WhiskeyBomb15 to save 15% off of 2 shed tests. Bull pythons may be up-and-coming breeders, but they've already made a significant impact on the industry
10.
with their passion, love for pieds, and affinity for the color pink. There's no reptile convention in the U.S. where their merchandise isn't present, and they also produce beautiful ball pythons. Don't take my word for it. Give them a follow on Morph Market and Instagram today. Torchbearers of the Tom Harbin Reptiles legacy. You've seen the monarchs. Now experience the full spectrum of the Herpen Harbins. Beyond the hype, discover exceptional DG, puzzle, clown, dreamsicle, and other unique combos. Their high-end hognose collection is just as impressive, including Swiss Chocolate, Sunburst, Mai Tai, Storm Cloud, and many more. Meet them at some of the top shows and follow their journey on Morph Market, Instagram, and YouTube. Genetic Genesis are extremely passionate breeders who are investing in quality animals and paving their own path. They work with a number of morphs and combinations, including Wookiee, Hypo, Clown, MJ Xanthic, Scrambler, and the list goes on. You can find them on Morph Market and Instagram, or even your local reptile show.
Shout out to our show sponsors. We appreciate them. Make sure you guys are following them on Instagram, Morph Market, and Facebook. And if they have a YouTube channel, check it out too. And the Herpen Harbins specifically are working some amazing hognose. So definitely check out that sponsor's Morph Market if you're interested. But hit up Jeff, because he is definitely gonna be getting blown up after this episode, because we're about to show off some of his favorite projects here. Question for you: what mutations do you find as foundational?
Man, there's so many of them. I'd say like Sable's of course a big one because that's like a really good color enhancer. Albino, lavender. Xanthic. Xanthic like in anything is like really great. I mean, you look at ball python combos. So
Yeah,
and then Arctic for an incomplete dominant anaconda. Those are kind of like must-haves.
those were the only two, right?
No, there's the Antarctic, and but that's a Lilac with Arctic, and that's a new one that was produced in China.
Okay,
And that's a new
one.
gene. Yeah, it's like, and the funny thing is, it's like at first I really hated the name, and we were joking about it, and I was gonna tell them that like nobody was gonna buy one in the U.S. until they fucking changed that name.
Yeah, because it's relative.
Yeah, because it kind of looks like an Arctic a little bit. They're more extreme, and then it's called Antarctic. I was like, imagine having to answer, "Hey, what's the difference between this Arctic and Antarctic?" for new people coming into the Hognose community.
Yeah.
Like every 3 days, it'll be on Facebook for eternity, for the rest of our lives. I was like, we're gonna lose compounded hundreds and thousands of hours collectively as individuals having to answer this fucking question, but. Turns out it's a allelic. So I'm like, all right, since it's allelic, so it's a mutation of the same allele. It's a different mutation of the same allele, and so I'm like, all right, now the name isn't as bad. Now I kind of think the name is good and those guys actually named it in Antarctic, ode to Arctic, my trait, because it kind of has a very unique look like Arctic, and it's definitely different and. That's one I'll be talking about soon. I can talk about it a little here. It's definitely a very unique project. I'd say that one's very, very worthwhile. As far as up-and-coming projects, that's a big one to watch out for.
Number one, okay. And let's see. Well, you want to show off some of the different variations of the albinos that you have, since that's kind of like the first classic mutation, and we have so much variety now.
Yeah. Let me show you.
As you show them, just kind of definitely explain the differences, because I'm new. A lot of people are new to these.
All right. First off, I'm going to show you one of my absolute best red albinos, anacondas. So this is a color blast albino anaconda. So this is my own line of red, purple line, and extreme red. And then here I have like a classic albino anaconda. So this kind of contrast.
Yeah, the classic is definitely, you could tell the classic is definitely like blonde.
Yeah, it's like a blonde, apricot-y, kind of orangish yellow. And then the color blast.
That thing is insane.
She'll still get more red with age too. She's only a little over a year old, so she'll actually red up a lot more. So you could see what's come along. Like these look like two completely different morphs, but they're the same thing. Other than this ultra red one has a bunch of polygenic years of selectively line breeding piled into her. And that's only about I'd say like 15, 18. Yeah, about 18 years of selective line breeding in her. About 18, maybe 20. I'd say 20 years. So imagine what you could do in another like 50 or 80 years.
That's just insane. That's insanely beautiful. I mean, everybody wants red in their snakes and ball python enthusiasts, especially. Everyone wants a red ball python, and it's like, if you want red, just go here.
yeah, corn snakes or hognose.
That and blood pythons, you get really nice reds with those, but that animal's incredible. And as far as selectively breeding that coloration out with the polygenics, is it just that? Were you just selectively choosing the babies to raise up and breed back into that project? Or was it a little deeper into the specifics that you were trying to find besides just the red?
Yeah, you look for ones where it's like a lot of times as you're line breeding a project, always keep a lookout for something that is like it's like this is like common sense logic here. You know, you're line breeding, let's say, a really nice red one, and then you get ones with like red in the background pattern, like more red showing up, or it's start getting more purple between the scales, or you start getting a more unique pattern. Those ones are going to look a little like, you know, more unusual to you, and so you're going to start selectively line breeding those. So sometimes you can even spin off a project. You can be selectively line breeding for something, and then something unprecedented or something like really unexpected like shows up, and then you could just go based off
like
that.
a weird pattern, like the Wama.
Yeah, like the Woma, exactly. Like Woma popped up out of my Lemon Ghost stuff. So
What
like
up,
my
Logan?
so my Womas, they're pure Lemon Ghost. But some people will look at my Womas, like, oh, they're not as colorful. And I'm like, well, yeah, because when I selectively line breeding Womas, my, you know, the important thing with that project was the pattern. Yeah, so I just went for pattern. So if the colors weren't as good, but the pattern was better, I stayed with it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And then this is a Toffee Belly RB Pastel Red Phase. And this is about a year-old female, well, a little over a year. Oops, sorry, girl.
So that's just one genetic mutation, correct?
Yeah, this is just Toffee Belly, and then these like nice red, like deep, like kind of describe it as like a rust red.
Oh,
that's all selective line breeding.
Do you have a Toffee Belly that isn't as expressive, more classic to compare?
Oh shit, I don't. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, right.
Maybe.
Too much heat over there.
Yeah, sometimes like I can only keep so much stuff back, so like, I don't know.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, sometimes I do, but I don't think I have anything
to us what the Toffee Belly mutation does to the coloration and the pattern outside of just the belly, though, and without all the red influence.
Yeah, it's well, it's a T positive albino, so you have it's just
more caramel.
Yeah, it's more like a caramel. Yeah, like an ultramel. Like ball python, maybe a little less melanin than that. But if you look at their bellies, they're like a nice, like, you know, kind of like rich, like brown, kind of lavenderish color, more like a brown, and that's like the kind of good like color of like toffee.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then if you look at their, their pupil, the pupil's still pretty dark. It's a little like rubyish, and yeah, then overall the black's really muted. Along with the toffee belly mutation though, because if you look at a toffee belly versus a hypomelanistic like Evans hypo is technically a T positive too.
Okay.
And I'd say their melanin reduction is almost on par. But if you put them next to each other, they always look a little different. And you could be like, well, that's because of polygenics. But, well, toffee bellies always seem to be a little more colorful. They always seem to be like a little more color to them. So the protein pathways that are inhibited, or the enzymes that's inhibited, the tyrosinase, the mutation might be inhibiting tyrosinase, but affecting other pigment cells within the toffee belly, and that's why you're getting these maybe little different colors. Like they're usually a little more richly colored.
And that's kind of what we see in like, I want to compare it to like the axanthic lines, where certain axanthic lines show more color through, but they're similar. But they're not related. They're just similar mutations, you know.
Right. Yeah, like the TSK, VPI, and like the Jolliffe.
Yeah, and like if you look at Jolliffe, it's a lot more yellowing coming through than if you look at like an MJ. It reduces a lot more yellow than that. So kind of similar in that sense, relative for anybody that is familiar with ball pythons in that way. But yeah, also with boas, where you have like the boa woman caramel and the T positive VPI, they're both tyrosinase positive albinos, but they have different looks and they're incompatible and all that. And do you have any allelic mutations outside of the Arctic and the Antarctic in HOGNOSE?
No, there's no other allelic mutations. One other note thing on it, the toffee bellies also get paradox spotting. Not all of them, but some of them get paradox spotting.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we get concentrations of black flecking. A lot of times more likely on the belly, but even on their dorsal. Sometimes they'll and you see it better with the lighter colored toffees because the really color saturated ones, the melanin doesn't show up as well because there's so much deep saturation. But I've seen some really light blondish toffee bellies that like when they went through their pre-lay shed, so there's like a hormonal aspect there, some would end up with like black speckling. Not many, but I remember my one friend had one and it was crazy looking. It had, like,
take us on a toffee belly journey and show us some of your favorite toffee belly combos in your racks.
Okay. Yeah, let me see what I have here.
And then after that, we're going to kind of just let you flow through some snakes and explain the genetics to us because we are going to be, we're just going to be blowing through these snakes and really kind of giving the animals a showcase. Good pause, Keys. I don't do the pause gang on here, but that was a good one. That was a good one.
This is Super Anaconda Mai Tai, and Mai Tai
Oh,
is Sable Toffee Belly, and this has an RB pastel line in it too.
what do you think about that, Bear?
It's nice.
You're working the Mai
I've
Tai, right?
I've got a couple of babies pretty close to that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, because Bear has Mai Tai stuff I've seen, and I don't know if you had it. Did you get any Super Conda Mai Tais?
I've got a couple of babies. Yeah,
Okay,
I've
yeah,
got a I've got a one of my breeder females is an RBE pastel super conda toffee het sable, and I paired her with an Arctic Mai Tai male.
oh
So
sweet.
That's a cool belly. It actually has a burst of color right at the cloaca too.
I really love the Mai Tais. They just have such a rich color. The
Yeah, that's really.
camera doesn't do them justice. It's
It
just a,
does not. Yeah, you're right.
And
And you
if
can
you
see
put
she
that
has
in
some
albino,
paradox speckle spots here. You can
oh
see she
yeah.
has some.
Now if you put that into an albino, that thing is just gonna be like a little red spicy sausage, right?
Well, the albino removes all melanin, but toffee belly always it does seem to enhance color a bit, and then you have the RB line along with it. I think just have a combo. Let's say making an albino Mai Tai, so essentially a sunburst toffee belly.
Hmm.
I think what's going to actually help the coloration expression there the most, as far as being a pretty animal, is going to be like the RB pastel that you find in a lot of these toffee lines. Not so much the toffee gene there, but I do like the toffee because anytime I have the highest expression RBs, they always seem to be toffee belly. You know, they're either a het toffee or they are a toffee. So yeah, I think that would be a good price. And you'd want to breed it to, of course, like your reddest stuff. So like that really red albino conda female, that would be like a really hot ticket to breed into something like a really nice, colorful RB line Mai Tai.
I
Oh,
love anything super conda. I don't care what it is. Super conda is just my thing.
I definitely drool over like the I can't say exactly what they are. I know they're super conda. I know they're purple line, and they're probably something else, but they almost have like that faint stripe of purple down the back with like the silver sides, and but they have color to them. I can't explain it.
You know,
Like almost like a lavender.
I'm an old dude, and every time I look at a super conda, my mind goes back to the days when we used to paint flames on the side of our race cars. So
Oh yeah, look at the
you get a
dorsal
super conda,
pattern.
you get those flames coming off the head.
That's unique there. The dorsal on the neck stripe, and even the head pattern on that's unique.
This is a super Arctic toffee anaconda, and this one just has a really high expression, like melanin, that's like kind of shattered. Some of your super Arctics get some pretty cool, like high concentrations of black, and that's what we have here. But the toffee belly, of course, nerfs a lot of that black, and you have like this like kind of like deep chocolate brown super Arctic anaconda here with
That's
the
That
toffee.
that's really cool.
Now, are you gonna try to focus on that pattern there coming down the back and try to get that shattered stripe all the way?
Well, that one's that's because of the super Arctic and anaconda. That's variable, so there's really not much I could do
Gotcha.
to increase that. If I wanted to increase the shattering, um, making them het Swiss chocolate would actually be good, but that's going to be an endeavor because a lot of your super Arctics and super Arcticas or het Swiss chocolate have a higher probability of coming out shattered, or into something like maybe like making like a frosted. So like a super Arctic toffee kind of frosted, because a lot of super Arctic frosteds come out pretty shattered. And I'll show you one of those now. I have a super. So this is super Arctic, super kind of frost, and then I also have super Arctic caramel and a
You're
kind.
gonna you're gonna have to start telling everybody if I come on a podcast, you owe me a box of gloves.
Yeah, I'm going to go through some gloves here. That's for sure.
Yeah, we appreciate it. That thing is amazing. And what are these two? What is the differences here?
This one's a super Arctic caramel anaconda.
And the caramel is just another mutation, or
it is. It's a T positive, and it's
okay.
linked. It's linked to the hypo, and well, whichever. I think I mentioned caramel first. Yeah, caramel. Yeah, it's linked to the hypo and the frost gene. So, and then here's the super Arctic super kind of frost here.
Super Arctic super kind of frost. That's one of my favorites. The other one is more lavendery. What's making the other one more lavender? The T positive.
Caramel. Caramels are basically, it looks like they're essentially like a type of T positive, and you can see that nice ruby eye. Yeah. If you look at the super Arctic frosted superconda, if I can get him to hold still a little bit, his eye is really dark. And you could really just see from the body pigment. You know, the body pigment on the caramel is a lot more T positive, caramely brown, and the frosted really isn't lacking that much melanin at all. It's actually the same essentially mutation, but the one has significantly less melanin than the other. And that's actually a really cool complex. That one's very hard to figure out. People have been like talking about it. I started talking about it a lot about like 2 years ago and trying to get information because everybody had all these weird breeding results, including myself. I started working with the gene a little later than everybody. But I'm going to be coming out with a video soon. And also, what's his face? Really cool guy, awesome guy. If you guys actually want a really nice pink pastel hognose, John Barry, you know, he's a big legend in the boa world and hognose community. He's a very nice guy. He unfortunately is diagnosed with cancer. He's writing a book. And so I gave him some information to include in the book on the frosted caramel stuff. So there'll be a summary of that there. And I'm also going to be making a video describing the complex.
Nice. I definitely have to check that out. Any kind of educational videos, documentary type style thing. Is that what it's going to be? Like more of a documentary type thing? Or?
I will go over the history of it, and I'm going to explain like kind of the genetic anomalies and because everybody like has like the perception of them was like, okay, these are all like the frost is supposed to be a double visual, and I was like, it's not a double visual. Frost can't be a double visual. They're also not allelic. It's impossible for the frost to be. For one, the frost doesn't even look like a double visual. It's like, why the fuck would a hypo and a T positive make a dark animal? You know, but it's like, well, you know, they inhibit certain, you know, similar protein pathways. So it's like, well, maybe they, you know, somehow interact with each other where it does produce one with more melanin. But then you start looking at the odds of your frost, and it just doesn't make sense. Like I could breed het frost to het frost, right? And it's supposed to be a het frost frost is supposed to be a caramel hypo double visual. So a het frost is supposed to be a double het. You know how many times I've bred a het frost to het frost and I got like 25% frost and the rest normals? Like that's most of my odds. It's acting like a single simple recessive. So I'm like, how the fuck is this a double homozygous? You know, like you can breed one pair of het snows to each other, right? And maybe get three snows out of like 14 babies or 10 babies. Sure. Maybe every now and then you get that, but not like 10 times in a row. You start getting these odds that are like a 1 to a power of trillion or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I see a lot of the super anaconda stuff resembling the axanthic pattern colors and stuff. Can you show off some of the true axanthic combinations and explain kind of what you're mixing and what the future of axanthic may hold?
Yeah, axanthic is one of those, like, you know, if I had to only pick like 5 traits to work with, like in like any species, most likely axanthic's going to make it into any of those lists. A lot of people like silverish gray animals. People like contrast, black and white. And so, you know, axanthics are, you know, it's hard to pick with hognose. When it comes to picking projects, though, I pick every single one. Pretty much. That's pretty much my go-to.
That's me in ball pythons. Like, project? What project? I just breed it all.
I'll just show this one.
There's limitations to what I can add in, but I want to add it all in.
Now, here's an axanthic Swiss chocolate. Camera's probably not good. The one thing is the lighting in my room is kind of yellowing, so it's kind of making this guy, I think, on camera look a little tannish. But in person, he really doesn't have any there might be some like slight like tinges of like almost like copperish look pigment,
like almost like a shadowy.
Yeah, but he's really just kind of like this grainy, gravelly silver gray with dark tones, and his face mask is pretty.
If you hold him up real close on the side of his body to the camera, it'll probably pick it up pretty well. Yeah. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's almost like a granite.
Yeah, and that's the Swiss chocolate. The Swiss chocolate, a lot of times you get these really pixelated looks.
And
On
what
the
I meant by granite was not the ball python morph. I meant like a granite countertop.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it does. It does have that kind of like shattered, speckled, like granite look.
Yeah. Just don't want anybody watching to be confused.
And then I have like storm clouds, and a storm cloud is
My favorite.
that's your favorite. You like storm
It's like
clouds?
black and blue almost, you know? I mean, I saw a couple for the first time at the Herpen Harbin's table at Daytona or at Sear. And yeah, I saw a picture of one before and I was like, that's my favorite mutation in hognose or combo in hognose.
These are siblings here, and this one actually came out with what I call flashing. Every now and then you'll get these like paradox spots on sables, and you also get these paradox spots on cinnamons. See those like
Oh,
white?
yeah. I see why you call it flashing. It's like a little flash of color burning through.
Yep. Yeah, like right there where my thumb's at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so these are both storm clouds. This one here's got a little bit of more of a bluish kind of look.
That one, yeah.
Camera doesn't do it justice. And then I'm on my blue glove background, which kind of takes away from the blue.
You can definitely see the haze. It's coming across. And if you're not familiar with the blue haze of a storm cloud, just go look up some pictures. It's worth the 30-second Google.
Yeah, when they're young too, especially when they've gone through like their first growth shed, when they're around like 3-4 months old. Sometimes that's when like they're the most blue, and some of them are like almost like cobalt blue for a little bit, like a cobalt blue like haze or like kind of hue to them.
Yeah, I think if I do get into hognose, I attempted once before, and a breeder sold me like I think 4 or 5 gram babies, and I didn't have any success with those small of babies.
Yeah, that's too small.
I think there were like 3 meals, and they were selling them, and I had no experience. I was 21 years old, so now I'm older. I might invest, but I think the prices have increased on a lot of these combinations. Am I wrong?
They increased a lot in 2021 and 22, 23 during like the pandemic. All that extra money in the overall economy. The emerging market, China, and that really drove up prices significantly. They're actually down now. There's a lot more hognose, a lot more cool morphs, and there's only like back in 2021, 22, there wasn't ample supply of hognose, and there was a lot of newer genes and new gene combos, and a lot of demand in China, Hong Kong, and then over here. And so, like, a lot of stuff was bought up. But now you see quite a few high-end hognose, so there's a little more competition. So prices have come down.
What pattern is that? Got like the black halfway up the side?
Yeah, this is a Super Arctic with cinnamon. So cinnamon's a new mutation, and the cinnamon's giving it this black sidewalls.
And how new of a mutation is cinnamon?
Pretty new. Jose Angel's the originator, but then it popped up in so many other collections. Like there's like 5 or 6 lines of it now. I don't even have any from Jose Angel. I have one from the UK, and then I produced 2 in my own collection, and I have a Drake and Cove line one that's kind of like a friend of mine and are kind of partnering sort of on that.
So the 2 you produced in your collection just popped out randomly, or
They popped out randomly, yeah. And the one is from a bloodline I was working with for like my entire life, and it just randomly showed up. So that was very weird.
That's gotta be one of my new favorite pattern mutations. Can we see the dorsal?
Yeah.
Down the back. Oh yeah, it's almost like an anaconda llama wanted to cross.
Yeah, and the head pattern's pretty goofy on them too.
Oh yeah, like a little almost like a tuxedo. Like the collar of a tuxedo. That's really cool. I love the contrast. The bar of black going along the side scales, the lateral scales. Super unique. That's really cool. I don't know. What was the name of that again?
That's a Super Arctic cinnamon. So that's just a regular Super Arctic, and then with the new cinnamon mutation.
Super Arctic and cinnamon. Cinnamon is on the radar.
Yeah, it's very new. Like they're around like for a basic cinnamon, you're probably gonna be around like $3,000 for a regular just basic cinnamon.
Yeah.
And then like Arctic cinnamons, cinnamon condas, those are gonna be more around $4,000 to $5,000. I sold an Arctic cinnamon conda to a friend for $5,500. That one's actually pretty wacky looking. I could show that.
Are there any mutations in hognose that have any kind of issues?
Yeah, pink pastel, skull face, cinnamon. But every now and then it seems like you might get like a defect with cinnamon, but we're still trying to figure it out if that's tied to the cinnamon gene or if it's just random. Because then I've had a bunch of cinnamon clutches and they're all fine. Now I had 2 clutches like where there's issues, but then some of the normals that have no cinnamon in them were also had deformities. So it's like, oh, okay, is this because of the cinnamon? Is it more likely to happen because of the cinnamon? And then it seems like it is, and then all of a sudden I got 3-4 clutches in a row and there's not one issue. All right, he's trying to eat me. But
oh yeah. So you're thinking maybe it could even be like sibling linked, like genetic linked to siblings, possibly?
Well, with the cinnamons, I'm pretty much they're all unrelated. All the pairings I'm doing, so they're like really outcrossed. So they're not inbred like at all. So we'll see. I mean, the cinnamon trait though is like pretty cool. It's kind of similar to sable and Swiss in a way, and almost kind of like Arctic too, or like. Let me explain what I'm trying to say. Like when you hatch out super Arctics, they hatch out like real smoky, like blackish, and a lot of times they appear almost close to all black. And then after their first growth shed, they drastically lighten up. Their background turns almost all white, and then their saddles remain really heavily, black concentrated. When cinnamons first hatch, they hatch out really, really dark. They hatch out real dark, especially the high. Well, you get varying expressions. You got low expression cinnamons. They barely don't even look like a cinnamon. They almost look like a normal with a weird head mask and maybe a little bit of odd pattern. And then the thing is, these low grade cinnamons, these low expression ones, still make really awesome. Like I have this one low expression male, and almost every baby he's made has been like insanely nice looking. They're all high expression actually. He's produced my most high expression, so I think it's just random. But when they first hatch out, they can be. Yeah, kind of like, pied. I don't know too much about piebald ball pythons. I know certain mutations, with like obviously like Enchi, you can control them to be low white, and then things like spider and trying to think what else kind of gives you higher white ones. Like Mojave pies always seem to be high white.
And stuff. Yeah, you can kind of control them once you figure them out, but more so like the variation though with the morph itself. Like piebalds, you can just have a variation of high and low white.
I would liken it to like the anaconda gene, because some anaconda hognose almost look normal, like some of the really low expression ones, and that's kind of how the cinnamon sort of is. Cinnamon's a very goofy acting mutation. It acts dominant, but it's like it's not normal at all. It seems to appear to have some form of sex linkage because you get mostly males, and it's not like banana ball python because you're getting enough females where there isn't that much crossing over events happening. So I believe it's chromosomal sex link, and I think hognose are XXXY and not ZZZW. Like in pythons and boas, they're believed to be ZZZW, like in ball pythons. And then they later looked at it, and I think it was because of banana ball pythons. And then coolibrids are all supposed to be ZZZW, but nobody's actually looking at this stuff. So I believe hognose are actually XXXY, and we have the cinnamons occurring on the X chromosome. And so in females, it's more likely to be masked, where you don't even see it, but then some still express through. And then in the males, you tend to get mostly better expression ones because there's one X chromosome where the cinnamon would be, and then the Y chromosome isn't interfering with it because they're different interacting, or their chromosomes are different.
Interesting. And that would be like more sexual dimorphism, where the females would always carry a lower expression just because of that chromosome being.
Yeah. And so like I don't really have many. I only produce like a few high expression cinnamon females, but I can like produce high expression cinnamon males. And I do produce a decent amount of male cinnamons opposed to females. For a little while, it was like I couldn't hit female cinnamons. Now I kind of hit them all the time, sort of, and they're from the same male. The same male that was throwing all males is now I'm getting females from. So you can't say it's like, oh, well, maybe it's, there's a crossing over event. It's like it's the same breeder male doing this.
Interesting. So that would be a third incomplete dominant, or it's not known if it's a super.
Yeah,
so.
it is. We don't know. I think it's the originator Jose Angel. It's kind of hard because there's a language barrier there. He's from Spain. Pretty sure he's from Spain, and I don't think he's really bred cinnamon to cinnamon. So I don't know. But then yeah, so we'll see. We'll know within a couple years for
future. Sure. That's gonna be sweet. Well, do you want to show off and showcase what the projects that you are most passionate about, the animals that you are most proud of producing, and just kind of showcase some inspiration for everybody for the last 10 minutes before we wrap up?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then this question, did you get any Mexican albino established?
Mexican albinos. No, there is axanthic Mexican hognose. There was an albino Mexican hognose in this book that my friend Dayton showed to me. And I don't think anybody's ever established those. Now there's albino southern hognose established, and there's albino eastern hognose. But the albino Mexican, there has been no pure line, albino Mexican that like lineage that is being bred actively in captivity that I'm aware of.
Gotcha. Thank you for your. All right. So if y'all have stuck around for this episode, make sure you guys are hitting that like button, subscribe if you are new, and just checking out this channel from seeing the Hognose episode. I know I got all your attentions because he's about to pull out and showcase his favorite animals.
All right. This is one I really like. Hopefully it shows up on the camera really well. What? I mean, I already showed you some of the really like the super Arctic super kind of frost. That's like one of my favorites. But this one, this is a lavender sable super Arctic anaconda. So it's homozygous for two recessives. It's homozygous, Arctic / super Arctic, and then it's got one single copy of the conda gene. So you're looking at a double recessive super Arctic anaconda.
I like that. I missed what you said. Oh, yeah. All right, I'll mention it. So that thing is like a slate gray almost. Am I seeing it right? Like a lavender slate color?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a slate gray with like earthy, like purple kind of bluish tones almost.
And tell me the genetics again.
This is lavender sable, super Arctic anaconda.
And lavender is a combination of two morphs, or it's a morph in itself?
No, it's a single gene recessive mutation.
Okay, because I always loved the lavender stuff. I just, for some reason, I thought it was a combination. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. A coral? Is a coral a lavender and something else?
Yeah, that's albino and lavender is coral.
Okay, I think that's where I was getting it confused. Yeah, that almost reminds me of that bluish gray that they're putting on all the cars now. That matte. Let's see here. Let's see. We got any questions from the chat? If you got any questions, drop them in there. If you have any animals that you may want to see, drop them in the chat.
Yeah, this is a super Arctic sunburst. So sable, albino, and super Arctic. Now these aren't like, this is like a really high-end combo, but it's one of those ones where it's like it's not going to be super high-end for much longer because there's so many people working with this project because it's such a good-looking animal. So this isn't really that unusual of a mutation, but I still like these so much because they are like, they're really variable. And like this one's pretty damn pink. And some are like electric pink. Some are like an orangey salmon pink. You get so many different types of like variants of this.
I was going to say, she almost looks like, she's very washed in pink, but then her pattern is is almost just like I don't know how to describe it. It's almost just like speckles coming through the pink of other darker pink color. It's like no true pattern. You know what I'm saying? Like a wash.
Yeah, yeah. There's different shades of pink, and so the background's pink. The saddles are more pink. Then there's like white between the scales, and in some areas there's some like purple.
Yeah, the white between the scales is it's like harder to describe. It's almost like a netting around each pink scale, and it's giving like that coral look. Really pretty. Now, where do you see a future with taking the pink line animals?
Oh man, I'd say with any like real pink line stuff. So whether you're working with pink line snows, which I have some like ultra pink snows, and I've been working on those for about 9 years now. And so what I'm trying to do with the like my snows is I've been breeding like my best reds into them. So basically, if you ever like that insanely like red one I showed you before, basically I'm just trying to make that with axanthic. So the axanthic nerfs the red, but not completely, and you keep selectively line breeding the ones where the most pink's showing up from these real red lineages, and you end up with these really, really pink animals. So corals and subarctic sunburst are really pink, and you could probably influence their pinks too and increase them more by breeding really red lineage, like really red saturated lineage animals into them. But it's a longer term project because you're working with a polygenic, and every time you outcross it, it does get diluted. So working like my pink snows, again, that was like a 9-year project, and I'm just now seeing snows that are probably on par with the quality of some of my best red albinos,
Gotcha.
minus the axanthic being there. So it takes a long time to work polys. That's one reason why some people don't like polygenic stuff. It takes a while, but the way I look at it is, I mean, what the fuck else are you going to do? Time's going to pass anyway. Just work
Yep.
on it.
We would love to see one of the pink snows.
All right, I'll get one
Now
out.
that you've definitely brought it up. And Jamie K says crystals PPAs has her paying attention to the PPA. Pink Panther albino, is that the abbreviation? Fill me in, Jamie.
Pink pastel albino.
Oh, pink pastel albino. Okay. I was just thinking of Sammy, Bull Python, the Pink Panther. No, Pink Panther is that's another line of like pastel and the boas. So I think that's where I got it confused.
All right, here's one of my pink snows. This isn't my pinkest one, but he is pretty nice. And if you look at his saddles,
Oh yeah,
and they're starting to get some nice pinks in the background too. And so, my next step is to start bringing my red phase lineages that have a lot of red saturation in the background to try to get, a pink on pink snake.
I noticed halfway down his body he goes from the twin spot pattern to more of like a bow tie pattern on his dorsal.
Yeah,
Are they
he's an
kind of
anaconda
connected?
too. The anaconda,
Oh,
that's the anaconda there.
okay. Yeah, that pink is real nice. It's all that one's definitely like more of pastel coloration, like a pastel crayon.
Yeah, if you're asking about, I see Jamie just mentioned pink pastel. That's a single gene recessive mutation, and they're pretty nice looking. Pink pastels are weird.
So, what is the most popular direction currently with the existing hognose mutations that aren't like that are super um, available, super saturated in the market? He might be too far away.
All right, here's another one of my pink snow anacondas. So this is the same as the last one I showed, but a
Oh
different one.
wow, that one's super pink. Yeah, that is money right there.
Yeah, I've had so many people that like don't know like that I really probably would never sell them. that seen I posted a picture of them, and people were like, "Do you have a snow like that?" And I'm like, as I have babies, but and then here's a and this is a Arctic pink pastel albino anaconda. So this is like they call them pink pastel albinos, but it's a single gene mutation, pink pastel. It's not compatible. It's not allelic with albino. So
Okay,
if you breed this to an albino, you just make double hets.
gotcha. So that's a double visual anaconda.
Yeah, this is Arctic anaconda and then pink pastel, single
Oh,
gene
okay,
with
and
the
the
recessive
Arctic.
pink pastel.
So the Arctic really kind of adds the contrast off of the back pattern, the base pattern or the base color. It gives it more contrast in the pattern.
Yeah, it kind of whitens it up a bit, lightens and like cleans it up. Yeah, more
Hmm.
contrast.
Without the Arctic, you would almost get more of that wash and lose the pattern. Or
I probably, you know what? I have a pink pastel anaconda that's still.
okay.
I can get that.
Bad influences in the chat. No, those are good influences. we wanna, you know, we want to support everybody's passion. So if they say, I plan on getting one, we're gonna just peer pressure you into doing it sooner. No, I'm just kidding. So, what's your takeaways from the episode so far, Bear?
Well, I'm just kind of in awe of a lot of these snakes he's showing me.
What is
So
this?
this is a PPA anaconda, pink pastel anaconda, no Arctic.
Okay, yeah. The Arctic definitely lightened it up, kind of made the colors a little more creamy in the base, and then the pattern, um, it almost ghosted out the pattern a little bit more.
Yeah, right. It did.
That's awesome. Is there a really orange combination at all?
Albinos and toffees. There's some pretty orange albinos and toffees.
Okay.
Like the mai tai, some of the mai tais. The toffee
Yeah.
stable. Some of them are pretty orangey.
The sunbursts and stuff getting it
Yeah,
over
sunbird.
back into that stuff. Now, what's your well, you probably did show off your best lavender when you pulled that one out. Are you going to be at Tinley?
I will be. I have not missed a Tinley ever since I started going. I've been going there since I was 16.
Wow. So definitely, if you're going to Tinley, stop by Jeff's table.
Yeah, I'll be there in was like week and a half. It's coming up fast.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate you joining us for the episode, and I hope that you had a good time. I know that we had a great time. I gained a wealth of knowledge tonight about a species that, I had my own troubles with. I think that was due to the breeders selling me snakes that were too small and them not having a good possibility of surviving just off bat as it was. But I'm excited to try my hand at hognose again. Maybe one day breed if I can get over the intimidation of those little babies in the feeding regimen, because I've I don't want to say anything crazy, but I've gotten comfortable with neonate green tree pythons and how small they are, and hognose are like a whole nother level, like beyond that. So
Yeah.
definitely kudos to all of you guys that curate this part of the hobby and breed these amazing animals and just put out the work that inspires us all, really.
Yeah, if you could do green tree babies from all the stuff I've heard about them, you could do baby hognose. They're a little smaller,
They're just
but
so small. Yeah.
yeah, but shit, green tree pythons. I hear some stories about those, and I'm like, I raise a lot of hognose, and I'm like, man, that sounds horrible when I talk to green tree
I
people.
know it's funny for me to say like, oh, hognose seem like a challenge baby wise, but it's like, yeah, all those little species, they are, even the green tree pythons, you're gonna have your neonate clutches that are just really, really horrible and hard to start, and I think that's any species. Who knows what it
Yeah.
really has to depend on, but
I have some videos on Morph Market's YouTube channel on feeding baby hognose and, like, starting out. A lot of it, I think, is just like, if you're used to working with other species and you're new to hognose, the way that they feed and predate on, prey is very unique compared to your average ambush predator species of commonly kept snakes like a ball python or corn snake or rat snake or even like a green tree. Some of these have like their own little like kind of like struggles. But if you know how to approach baby hognose, like 90% of mine start out feeding really good. And it's a really process of elimination. And the last 10% is finding out the presentation or the scent type they want. And once you figure that out, you get it really narrowed down. I only ever have to assist feed like under 1% of my babies. It's a very small percent, and some people don't want to assist feed. I do. I use probe sets. Once you get good at it, it's extremely easy. I have a video on my Instagram. You'd have to scroll down. I don't have it pinned. But assist feeding, if you use a probe kit, it's not too bad. You just want to use pinky heads. And I'd say probably 1 out of like every 100, 150 babies I need to do that with. And I do that just to keep their weight on until they do want to start eating.
heck yeah, that's good advice. I definitely, I was younger back then, and I've had a lot of experience with the neonate green tree python since then. A lot of it came after that, so
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I think the storm cloud, I should say, is gonna be the first one I probably get into, just because that blue and black color palette is just my favorite. But again, I really appreciate you coming out with us tonight. Thank you, everybody who's in the chats watching the live with us tonight, and everybody catching the replay. Make sure you subscribe so that you never miss an episode or another show on the network. We have a show every single day of the week. Turn on the notification bell so that you get notifications right before we go live every single day. And tune in tomorrow for Balls and Things, and we'll catch you guys next week.